1-point game on ESPN along with the coach, Dick Vitale. I'm Bob Lee, and Villanova, Maryland coming your way. We're keeping an eye on the game between North Carolina State and Alabama. We'll be checking in. We'll also show you first-half highlights of that game. But our game, Dick, 1-point affair. Point was made just before halftime that both these teams, yes, are 70-point-per-game teams, but here we are, 20-19 at halftime.
Bob, the reason for the low score is very obvious. No shot clock. Each possession becomes so vital. There are like 7-8 passes by Villanova before they even think of a shot. However, they're not stalling, but there's a tendency to be a little bit conservative at this time in terms of the pressure that's on, and right now we're seeing a very slow-paced game.
The big defensive weapon in Rollie Massimino's arsenal all year has been the matchup zone defense. We hear that term quite so often. Put yourself on defense. Tell me what you got to do if you're playing in a matchup zone.
Bob, for the people out there, a matchup defense is very simply this. There are three basic defense. Man-to-man, obviously, you guard a man. Zone defense, you guard an area of the floor. When you play a matchup zone defense, you are matched up with a man in the area of the floor. When he goes through and cuts through, you release him to somebody in a back line. So it's a combination of a zone and a man-to-man. Now let's go to Clinic 101.
All right, well, we'll get to some other points about exactly why a lot of fast break dunks are coming Maryland's way in just a second, but we'll also be checking in on that Alabama-North Carolina State game, and we're at halftime of the 2019 game with the Terps on top in the Southeast Regional Semifinal.
Sharp. We make everything from portables to digital disc players. All so you can. Sharp audio. From sharp minds come sharp products.
You're looking at America's favorite work clothes. More men wear Dickies work sets than any other. Women too. From pants to coveralls. From shirts to shoes to underwear. From gloves to socks to outerwear. Dickies makes everything in work clothes. But who says you have to work in them?
In Denver at this hour, North Carolina State in action against Alabama. Let's show you what happened in the first half of that game. In just a couple of moments, we'll be taking you out live to McNichols Arena for an update, but it was a seesaw battle in this first half as Buck Johnson goes high up here off the glass and gives Alabama a 19-18 lead. Wolfpack, though, would come back and regain the lead. Lorenzo Charles will fake the jumper and dish to Spud Webb, who's been a big factor in that first half. State's back up by a point. They're leading it by 2. The Tide goes inside. Terry Conner to Bobby Lee Hurt for the layup. And we're tied at 23. Spud Webb had the last 5 points of the first half for the Wolfpack. Watch the height as he drives up off the steal and lays it up over the rim. It was 28-27 at halftime. We'll be going there for a live update at McNichols in just a moment. But Webb has really been a defensive demon as well in this game.
Bob, he's been playing outstanding basketball throughout the tournament. I think a very key factor could be if they get the lead, Jimmy Valvano is definitely known to spread the court, isolate Webb, and allow him to go one-on-one, penetrate, and dump it off to Lorenzo Charles and Cozell McQueen.
They have just got under the 11-minute mark in that game, and Alabama has a 41-39 lead over North Carolina State, so State by a point at the half. Right now, Alabama has the 2-point margin with less than 11 to go. We'll step aside for just a second and remind you can see that game in its entirety this evening on ESPN. We'll be also checking in live for an update, but tonight at 2:30 Eastern Time, Bama and the Wolfpack. And we'll go out to McNichols for a look at that game right after this.
Everyone wants to be a winner. On the court, in the classroom, whatever. But winning isn't easy. And believe me, winning doesn't come from drugs and drinking. It takes hard work and practice to make a winner. Drugs only make losers. Fill up your life with positive activities. For me, it's sports, but maybe you like music or photography. There are so many opportunities for winning. Why waste your time and energy on being a user and a loser?
The preceding message provided by the NCAA.
Villanova has the lead at 20-19. In a few moments, we'll be checking up on the North Carolina-Auburn game. And we understand that game is a very tight affair. It was 41-39 at last report as they approached the 11-minute mark of that game. And let's now update you on exactly what's going to be happening in that game. As we said, we'll be checking in from time to time. 43-41 is the score in that game. Let's talk about the Carolina-Auburn game, which is the second game happening tonight in Birmingham. Sonny Smith, the rising tide of emotion with this Auburn team, and we've talked about through our coverage last week and also earlier this week the fact that the folks at Auburn are trying to heap more and more poker chips out there trying to get them to stay.
They're trying to keep them right there, and I don't blame them. Sonny, with all his one-liners, is doing a fantastic job. I think in this basketball game, Sonny's going to have to come up with a magical act to neutralize the big, towering people inside. The one great thing about a Dean Smith basketball team, they make one extra pass offensively to usually get that really good shot, Bob.
The game we're watching, Maryland is leading Villanova by a count of 20-19. Now we'll be able to take you to McNichols Arena in Denver for a look at that game between North Carolina State and Alabama. The winner of this game takes on the winner of the St. John's Kentucky game coming up a little bit later on tonight. Larry Zimmer and Jack Gibbons are standing by. Let's catch the flavor of this game right now in the West Regional.
This is McNichols Sports Arena in Denver, Colorado, with Alabama leading North Carolina State by 2, 43-41. And Jack Gibbons, the two big guys for the Crimson Tide, shooting pretty well.
Oh, they really are. They're getting the ball in real good position on the inside. Buck Johnson is 6 of 9 from the field. Bobby Lee Hurt, 4 out of 6 from the field. So those two big men for Alabama, 10 out of 15 from the field. And when you're getting that kind of scoring from the inside people, you can take control of the game, which is what Alabama's done right now.
Indeed, and the score has been tied 10 times. North Carolina State right now 46%. Alabama's back up to 55% from the field. It's been a close ball game. The biggest lead either team has had has been 4 points.
North Carolina State still in the man-to-man. Terry Connor takes it to the basket there.
So that game is going back and forth in Denver. We'll be checking back in. We can promise you on that game. Of course, the Villanova-Maryland game is 1 point. That game continues to be tied out in Denver as well. We'll talk about the St. John's Kentucky matchup as we await the Wildcats and the Terps back on the floor in Birmingham.
Now this experiment is a
Mornings, he's Professor Erdy.
These are the standard solutions. I got my PhD in chemistry from UT, and I've been teaching or doing research ever since. As a teacher, I'm concerned with developing the minds of my students. Councilmember Erdy? Yes. On the City Council, I'm concerned with the total quality of life in Austin, preserving our environment, affordable housing, job training for young people, so that my students and your children can grow up in a beautiful, healthy, well-rounded city.
Let's re-elect Dr. Charles Erdy.
It's your money, son, but if you want my advice, buy another Subaru. It's been good to us.
Sure, Dad.
I thought we agreed you'd buy a Subaru.
But, Dad, I did.
The new Subaru XT Coupe. Inexpensive and built to stay that way.
Plus tonight, St. John's in Kentucky. If you missed the news on SportsCenter, reports are indicating that Joe B. Hall will be retiring as head coach of Kentucky after this year. There's a report that Eddie Sutton, the Arkansas coach, had been felt out earlier about taking this job this year.
Bob, there's no question that Eddie Sutton's name is going to be certainly mentioned with any big job because the guy's an absolute Rolls-Royce coach. I'm sure he'll deny it, but there's some reports. We got some phone calls here. Said, Eddie, you're on their hit list, their wanted list. Watch out for Gene Cady, also of Purdue, if Joe B. Hall decides to really hang him up.
Quick thought on the Alabama game. Bobby Lee Hurt, who leads the nation in field goal percentage, is showing why in that game.
Well, he's saying, hey, Lorenzo Charles, take a look at me. I'm big, bad, and I'm tough. And he's posting up like he can't believe inside. Hey, Bob, he's saying, I am a legitimate superstar.
Alabama leads that game 45-40.